Welcome to the first ever Inboxing podcast. I'm your host, Hillel Berg. The Inboxing podcast is a podcast about email marketing. We're going to be talking about email marketing week to week, uh, and we hope you enjoy, and I hope you follow. It should be very interesting. We'll try to make it as fun as we can. Uh, and if you'd like, you can subscribe. Definitely subscribe. If you're enjoying the content, we really appreciate it. Um, Anyway, so let's get started. Today we're gonna have a guest. Every week we're gonna have a guest, and we're gonna talk about their experiences. They're always gonna come from the email marketing community. Today's guest is gonna be Emily McGuire. She has an agency in the Detroit area named Flourish. But just to get started a little bit, just like to maybe a little bit introduce myself. So my name is Hillel Berg. I got my start in email marketing at a small startup that sold e-cigarettes using e-commerce, and when I was the head of promotions, I discovered the tremendous power of email marketing, where we just brought in record numbers on one of my first sales. So it was very exciting, and since then I've been really in love with email. The power of email is really tremendous. The one-to-one channel, and still, if you didn't know this, even millennials love email and prefer to get talked to from companies in their email. So, anyway, since then I've worked, since I worked for them, I grew up and it turned into a bigger company. And now I'm running an agency called Hillel Berg Email Marketing, where we help businesses of all sizes grow with email marketing. And that's ultimately the goal, is for every business to really use the channel of email marketing to the best that they can in order to create relationships with their customers, and provide value for them. Whether you're a retail brand or a business to business, whatever you're doing should be valuable, and the way to stay connected with your customers is to keep talking to them, and potential customers. And nurture is the name of the game, and wow and amaze is the other part of the game. So just let me see if I can mute. There we go. It should be muted. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, if anyone's listening, I'd love to see it in the comments. But anyway, to continue what I was talking about. Yeah, so anyway, so email is just growing and growing. It's become one of the biggest channels, or the biggest channel, and it definitely has the most ROI by a long mile, because the cost of sending an email is very, very minor, as opposed to Facebook ads, or where it could be extremely competitive. If you build an audience, they're listening to you. You didn't have to pay for that. You might have to pay in order to get the lead through marketing efforts. But once you have leads, you can nurture them, you can talk to them, and that's it. Yeah, so just a few, maybe we're going to talk a little bit. Just want to pull up, there we go. Things that I find upsetting, this week in email, this month and this year in email, particularly with Corona, it's been, I think brands have really noticed, or brands that actually weren't doing very much email marketing are now doing a lot more email marketing, and they've really realized and harnessed the power of the email because of Corona, and there's a lot less, obviously, face-to-face events, or even in-store meetings. So a lot of things have become digital where they weren't in the past. So yeah, so that's what's going on. Yeah, I see a lot of I don't know, thinking of things that I find upsetting in the email marketing, and I guess it's the batch and blast for the most part. Email marketing, we're going to talk a lot about this, but one of the most beautiful things you can do in email marketing is segment. Segmentation is really about I'm trying to trying to help my setup here, but okay. Yeah, so segmentation is really about separating out your customers or your audience into different segments based on their interests. You might have multiple funnels, and and they might have different types of content depending on your business. But knowing where your customer came from, what they clicked on, what they're interested in, you could definitely use that. You leverage that to your advantage to create amazing email experiences. To give an example, if customers are, let's say you're, business to business, if customers have been looking at your product, a certain product, and that product is now on sale, you can say specifically to them, you might want to send this to everyone because you're having a sale on that item, but you specifically say to them, like, we heard you're interested in this, and today it's 20% off, or whatever it is. In a few minutes, we'll be joined by Emily McGuire. I first got to know Emily through LinkedIn. Emily is a LinkedIn powerhouse. She posts very great content. So definitely look her up on LinkedIn. And actually this year she was, about a month ago, she was named in the top 30 email influencers by Sendinblue, who is a SMTP sender. Basically, it's one of the options you have when sending emails, like MailChimp, but slightly different. So that's a little plug for Sendinblue. Some of the biggest things that I've seen in email that I find, so I mentioned before the batch and blast. And I think thankfully that's becoming less and less of a thing. We're seeing less and less batch and blast, and more, exciting kind of stuff. But still, batch and blast is by far the most popular way people are sending emails today. I'm still seeing, all of us are getting tons and tons of email that we're not opening, and we'll probably will forever until we hit unsubscribe. But good practice is really to see who your audience, your audience is really the audience who's engaging with you. If you have a list of 10,000 people, but only, over a 6-month period, only, 5,000 people have either opened an email or clicked an email, that means you have 5,000 people that really don't care about your brand. And it's time, it's in your interest actually to trim the fat and get rid of those people. Unsubscribe them, or send them. You could send them a last-ditch offer to try to keep them engaged. We'll call it a win-back campaign, but definitely not. But definitely don't just keep emailing people. It's just a recipe to end up in the spam folder. And something that often comes up in terms of the spam, I get this question a lot. How do I get out of promotions tab? Promotions tab is not the spam folder. It's important for people to understand this. It could be that that's where you belong. You're a promotion. If we're Gmail users, we might also have our own promotions tab, and we're glad we do, because we do want to get promotional content, but we don't want it crowding our inbox. So don't feel bad, but you can utilize, there are actually tools that Gmail actually makes for marketers, like the Gmail promotions tab, Gmail promotions tab. There's a way to promotion, like there's a certain code that you can use, and then it shows up in a very cool way. I should have prepared a little graphic to show you what I'm talking about. But if you look up Gmail promotions tab, and just on the fly, promotions tab builder, Fresh Inbox has actually there's a bunch. I mean, Stripo is another one. Litmus has one, but I generally like the Fresh Inbox one. They can just call it the Gmail promo tab markup tool. And here, maybe I can paste it on here. No, I can't do that. But that's something like most companies aren't using, and it's really, you're going to the promotions tab, but it's a way to stand out, because especially if you show interest in certain things, like if you're interested in travel or cooking or recipes, that kind of thing. So Google will group emails like that together and show them at the top of the page, especially if you show interest in that. And they're doing a good job. Like that is what an email client should do, is try to find emails that are relevant to you. If they're just they're sticking emails into one big inbox, that's not helpful for anyone. It's not helpful for marketers. It's not helpful to the client. So let me just see if Emily is around. Let's see. And see if she emailed me. Let's see if she's here. Not here yet, but she should be here soon. But yeah, that's something every brand could be taking advantage of, especially B2C brands. It's just a tremendous opportunity. So people should definitely be trying to take advantage of that. Emily's here. All right. So welcome, Emily. And here she is. Emily, can you hear me?
I can.
All right. Welcome to Inboxing.
Yay. So glad to be here.
The first ever. All right. Well, welcome. I hope you have a great time here. It's definitely much more fun having a guest than talking.
So just talking into the ether. Yes.
Talking to the air. Exactly. Yeah. For sure. I think now we're two. Hopefully, people will be watching a little more. How you doing? How you handling Corona and after Corona and you get vaccinated yet or not? Probably not.
No, I looked up, the New York Times has a thing where you can look up how far down you are the list of getting the vaccine. And I think I'm like, my spot is 843 million or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a hot minute. Yeah, things are going. We've officially entered winter here in the northern U.S. We've got snow today.
You're in Detroit?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got snow today? You get snow all winter? Like I don't really.
Yeah. Most of the winter we get snow, and but it's not as bad. Like So we're closer to Detroit, and then like on the other side of the state, it's closer, or the west side of the state, it's closer to the Lake Michigan. And I used to
Right.
live on that side of the state, and they get so much snow because of the
Like
lake.
a lake effect snow, right?
Yep. So I'm glad not to have to deal with that. Exactly. So yeah, things are
Yeah.
going as well as they could be in Corona land.
Okay. Have you do find in terms of email marketing, do you find, people are looking for more email marketing during Corona?
Yes, a lot of people who hadn't made the switch to the digital world were scrambling at the beginning, and now are seeing the actual benefits of not relying on traditional forms of marketing that maybe aren't as effective anymore. So people are really eager to invest in digital marketing in general, and particularly email. So it's
For sure.
been it's been just a weird world, you know.
Yeah, it's been definitely a real world. I mean, you kind of nailed it. You said like companies that were never thinking of going digital, like within a very short time, were itching to become digital. Like,
Yes, and now they're
yeah.
seeing, proof of concept, right? Like they're seeing it actually pay off, and they're like, oh wait, why didn't we do this before?
Right. Right. It
Yeah,
was like a back burner kind of thing, and then I was like, oh gosh, it's front burner all the way.
right,
And
exactly.
yeah, it's like a
Have you
race to
been seeing
build.
the same thing?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely been an uptick in business and people looking for help in all digital avenues. Meaning, yeah. I mean, I think Facebook ads have become all time, more expensive, and
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
I'm
sure.
sure that's what I was saying. Actually, open the podcast talk. I don't know if you were watching, but I opened talking a little bit about that. How email, once you have an audience, you're not paying, percent like you have an audience. It's by far the most revenue of any channel. Per
Absolutely. And yeah, you own that audience, and you're not
Yeah.
subject to the algorithms. And yeah, I've actually read an article. I think it's from, gosh, anyway, I can't remember who published it. It's a tech magazine. So I try to keep up with the tech and business news. And they were talking about, they see a looming bubble about to burst with digital advertising, because the data isn't all there. So the data isn't super reliable to know 100% if your targeting is actually reaching the targets you wanted.
Uh-huh.
And in the US, our economy, like the biggest tech companies in the US, Amazon and Facebook and Google, a lot of their revenue comes from advertising.
Uh-huh.
And anyway, so it's an interesting world, digital
Yeah,
advertising.
for sure.
Yeah.
So I just wonder, how did you get into email? Like, what's your email story?
It's
How
not
did you get
very
here?
interesting. I'm just going to warn
No.
you.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right.
No, it's okay. No, like, so I went to grad school, because I graduated college at the height of, the last big recession. And I was working at whatever jobs I could find, right? Because there were none. And so my interest was in communication and digital communication, and it was just it was very difficult to find a job. So I went back to grad school to sort of hit reset on that, and which led me to all kinds of opportunities doing digital marketing in general. And so, which naturally led into social media, which I got my first job as like doing social media, and they were like, "Oh, internet, the internet stuff. You can do this email thing too, right?" And I did, and they just threw email on my plate. I find that sort of where a lot of people enter the email world, right? Like you're doing
Right.
other digital marketing things, and they're like, "Oh, this is the same thing. You can do that too, right?"
Right. Yeah, I mean, the truth, that's how I got in there also. Like, and I think that's
Yeah,
probably most of our story, like,
exactly.
yeah.
And uh, Google and I became best friends, trying to figure all that out. And then I got another opportunity to only do email. There was a position that opened up at a large local e-commerce company that was only email marketing, um, and I had experience with their email service provider, which was Bronto.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, yeah, it's funny because Bronto is actually where I was living at the time. That's where Bronto is headquartered, and I had no
In
idea.
North Carolina?
Yeah, they're headquartered in. Well, now they're owned by Oracle, so who knows?
Right. You were so
Uh,
cute.
yeah. So, so I joined that team, and there were 5 of us working on email marketing. So they had a very large program, saw a lot of success from it, and that's where I got to sort of hone my skills and learn from industry veterans who'd been doing direct marketing for decades, and which was fascinating to learn about. Like, most of these people came from like the direct mail world, and those tactics uh, they work in email, right, to a certain extent, right? Obviously it needs to be tailored, but yeah, I learned there. And then my husband and I moved back to Michigan after I had my son, and I was looking for, the right next job, not just any job, and I wasn't finding it, so I decided to create my own. And here I am, doing my thing.
That's so funny because I sort of ended up there also for similar reasons. Like, yeah, I mean, I worked at a big e-commerce company, and that's where I really learned email. And then when they finished, so I started looking around for jobs, and it was a lot of stuff I didn't want to do. Gambling or gaming or no.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I
so
saw
here we are, be
exactly.
independent.
Yes. Well, I saw a lot of roles out there that were looking for somebody who could do everything, which, I could do, but I didn't want to. Like, I've done that game, and I really enjoy digging deep into one area of focus. Because, I mean, especially in the digital marketing world, everything changes so fast. I don't know how like a generalist keeps up with everything, because between Facebook and Google and all the big players out there, it's just so difficult. So
For sure.
I'd rather like know one area and really be able to dig into that. And so
Own it.
yeah, I'm doing my thing.
Yeah. No, I mean that's really, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, I have some more fun things. Like, what do you see in your inbox that really upsets you?
That upsets me. Oh my god. When you become an email marketer, it can be so infuriating. You hop into your inbox in the morning and you're just like, why? Why are you doing this to me? And I think that's why people like get really afraid of email or turned off by it or don't want to explore it all because they've seen email done poorly. It's glaring and they don't want to be that person. Whereas when something's done really, really well, you don't notice it, right? Because it's seamless. And
Right.
and it's useful and you don't notice how useful it is. So anyway, so things that bug me. Oh, how much time do we have? I'm joking.
Well,
um, so 2 things. One is when I don't know who is teaching this or where this sort of precedent has been set, but when people only use their first and last name as the sender name for their email campaigns, and it's like, oh, who is this person? Do I know them? And you open it up and you're like, it's a brand. This is a promotional email. This is upsetting.
It's a bad experience.
Yeah, and it's like, my time is precious, and I do not like feeling like I've been tricked. And I know a lot of people don't do that. So some people probably don't do that intentionally, right? But there's this theory that like, oh, put a personal name and you'll have better open rates. Well, better open rates don't mean a better conversion, right?
Right.
They mean that you opened your email.
Right. It's very one-sided. So just look at open rates. Right.
Exactly. So I don't know the first and last name of the CEO of your company or your marketing director. Like, don't mean anything to me. So please just tell me who it is, the brand, right? Otherwise, I just start ignoring any email from somebody I don't know. So that's number one. And number two is, and I think this is just an experience thing in terms of messaging and copywriting, are subject lines that are totally centered on the brand and they have nothing to do with the subscriber. And that's like one of the first immediate things that I see that people can change is, what's in it for your subscriber to open this email? Like what are they going to get out of it? Because again, we're busy people. People are busy. Our inboxes are flooded. So you need to make it perfectly clear who the email is from and what's in it for me if I open it. And again, I think that's an experience thing. And the more you level up and skill up in marketing in general, you'll get there eventually.
For sure. All right. What's the biggest mistake you ever made in your email career?
Again, how much time do we have? Because so my very first email job, I don't know if this is biggest, but it was certainly one that made me want to crawl under my desk and never leave, or just like dig a deep hole and never return. I worked at a company that they were a gourmet or like a specialty food retailer, and they also had a cooking school and a restaurant, and they had several locations. And their cooking school relied on email to launch their quarterly schedule of cooking classes. And I thought everything was set to go. The registration links were up. The cooking school page was live. Scheduled the email to go out like first thing in the morning on a weekday and get into the office. And the registration page was not live. And sent out this email to a database of, I don't know, maybe 30,000 people. And there was nothing for them to actually register for. And it was just like mortifying, like one of those things that you're just like, I hate this so much. And I can't believe I did that, besides the usual, you click the wrong segment and send it. I mean, I've done that too.
Yeah. I sent an email, an empty link, like with a button that didn't have a link to it.
Yeah.
Like that was, thankfully, it was to like a micro list. Like it was like this weird project we were working on where like we had something to do with like the FDA, and we had to get people to buy certain products. It was all kind of fixed anyway, but probably we shouldn't think about that. But
the thing I then learned is that people love oops emails. People love them.
Oh, love them.
Yes. As long as you're transparent, it can be, a little human about it. Yeah, people love knowing. I guess that's kind of weird. People love it when you make mistakes and you own up to it.
Right, and I think it really ties into that people love when you show you're a real person. You're not just talking like a brand and being totally buttoned up and here we are. That kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I think that's true though. Like people don't realize, because like really polished marketing campaigns in general, they look too good to be human made sometimes, And I think we forget that there are real human beings dealing with real limitations and who can make mistakes, who are doing this thing, right? So it's not like I know people can get really upset about bad emails, but sometimes they're newbies who are trying to figure it out, or they have leadership who's really putting the hammer down on them to do it a certain way, and so we're all
Right. For sure. No, and I think sometimes I think the biggest impediment to great email experiences sometimes is leadership.
Yes, yes. And I find that to be the case with most like practitioners. If you're the person with your boots on the ground, you're doing the work, you know your audience, you know what tools you have and the resources you can work with. And sometimes leadership doesn't want to listen to that. They don't
Right.
understand it, and they have their own limitations and pressures put on them too that they're trying to navigate. But yeah, I've definitely been in that position where people they don't understand what it is I do, and I think where it really hurts is when they don't want to understand what 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 you're capable of doing and what you could do so much better if you had the investment. And so unfortunately then your job then becomes, you're not only like trying to do your job and make the business more money, but then you also have to be building the case for what you're doing and the return
Right.
at the same time. So I think that's every good marketer. Well, I mean, any profession really. Like you can't expect people to read your mind and understand what you're doing day in and day out and what impact it's making. Like you have to build that case for what you're doing at all times.
For
And
sure.
it's double the work, but you have to do
That's
it
what
and
it is.
communicate to people what's going on and what you
Yeah.
could be accomplishing if you had more resources.
Right. All right. So on the flip side of that, like, what would you consider like your biggest wins?
Oh, biggest wins. That's a great question.
Biggest wins.
So one of my favorite things I like to it's so weird to learn how to like toot your own horn. Toot toot,
All right.
Uh,
Toot away.
yeah, it's a hard one, right? But so at this large e-commerce company I worked at, we had an abandoned cart campaign that we just wanted to improve. Like it was already working, fairly well. It was bringing in a good amount of money, but it's always you could always be doing things differently. So over the course of
Right.
I want to say 6 months, we tested and tested and tested and tested. We had 3 emails in the campaign, 3 abandoned cart emails. We tested the timing, the subject lines, we tested design, graphics, imagery, copy, messaging, CTA buttons, like the whole 9 yards. We tested everything. And after that year, or over the course of that year, the campaign brought in $1 million, and we saw, I can't remember the exact number other than like $1 million. Like how can you?
$1 million. Right.
But we saw a lift year over year. I want to say it was somewhere around 15%. For the abandoned cart campaign. So those are like very direct numbers. I can say are one of my better achievements. Bigger wins have been, or other wins that don't necessarily have the numbers tied to them, but I have a client who they're a local e-commerce, or they're a local retail and e-commerce. And when COVID hit, they'd been working on an e-commerce site, but the process had been, it's just very difficult getting all your inventory online. But when COVID happened, we got everything in ship shape in a week. And when our state shut all non-essential businesses down or closed them to the public. And so in that first month of their e-commerce going live, and email campaigns drove 20%, I want to say 25% of revenue that brought in, and that's been pretty consistent all year,
Mm-hmm.
25%, and that of their e-commerce revenue from launch. So that's been a good feeling to be able to support a small business in that way and help expand their revenue reach, especially if you rely on face-to-face,
Right.
right?
For sure. For sure. Do you have a top 5 tips, or just you want to throw out five, 5 things you like live by?
That I live by. Okay, so yes. Again, how much time do we have now? Tell me when that joke gets old. Okay, my
Okay.
my 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 husband laughed at a joke that I've been saying for years yesterday, and it was the first time he actually laughed at it. And
Like a hit.
yes, I was like, finally! It just took 5 years of me saying the same joke over and over for you to finally laugh. Anyway, so top tips. One is, thinking about the user experience with email. I see like a lot of people get really stuck on, what do I do? What do I put in an email? What do I test? What do I even, how do I even want to do this whole email thing? Or what are areas to improve? And if you start thinking about the user experience, it becomes really clear on how and what to test and how and where to improve. So that might mean, creating a dummy email address that you go in from start to finish, sign up for your emails and see like what that whole process looks like from a fresh perspective, to see, okay, where do we need to improve? And 9 times out of 10, that's also the best way to advocate for the tactics you want to do to leadership, because they might not be thinking about it from that perspective either, right? When you want to try something new, or you want to invest in a certain area, or they want you to do something that you don't agree with, if you always bring it back to the user experience and ask people how that might be perceived by your ideal customer, people start to get it, right? And you start to get
Uh-huh.
it too. So I would say that's, top tip to sort of think about mindset for email. And then from a really basic standpoint, when you're trying to come up with messaging and copy and offers, thinking about, what's in it for me, that old standby in copywriting, right? Your customers want to know what's in it for me. And it's your job to make that connection for them. You can't expect them to intuit what it is you want them to do. And or how your product or service will help them. Like you have to make that connection for them concisely. And that can be easier said than done.
For sh-
But yeah, it comes with experience and continuing to learn and up level your skills. So I would say those are the top 2 that people can really impact, really,
Implement.
really, yeah, implement right away. Great word. Thank you so much.
For sure. For sure. So what are your top pitfalls? Things that you see
Oh,
people screwing up all the time.
yeah. I think it's really not understanding how, um, well, the first mistake I often see people make is, and when I like start to talk to a new client or get on a discovery call with somebody, is I ask, what are your goals for email for your business, and how, or for your business, and how does email fit into that? And if you're not clear on what your goals are for your business. I mean, that's a whole other issue. But for email or marketing, like what are the actions you want your audience to take? It's you have no focus. You have no then you're just like literally throwing stuff in an email and wondering why it's not working, right? So
Right.
you have to set goals for your email program, and you have to set measurables for those goals, right? And if you can't,
KPIs.
yes, exactly. And if you don't have those yet, if you have no way of measuring those goals, then you need to get that foundation in place to be able to do that. Because again, like you're just sort of stabbing in the dark, wondering why things aren't working. And when people tell me, oh, my emails aren't working, I ask them what the goal is for their email, and they're like, it's like, well, then how do you know it's not working? So you
Right.
need to be able to measure whether or not something's working. And I know that sounds super basic, but often like we get so stuck on the hamster wheel of just doing. We don't take a step back to wonder why we're doing what we're doing. And is there a way we can focus our efforts and focus our audience to achieving those goals? Like you have to help your audience achieve your goals. It's not just let's just throw out 10 articles and hope that it does something, which is what I often see people do. But yeah, it's
Do you
usually
remember
the basics.
what's that? It's usually about the basics.
Yeah, just going back to basics, like what am I hoping to achieve and how?
And keep the main thing the main thing.
Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's hard to do.
For sure. When was the last time you got an email that you like really loved? Like you really like either like, you're like, oh my gosh, this is gold.
They get me. Gosh, I let's see. I keep thinking about God, I get so many emails, right? And you're
Yeah.
just like, I love you so much for getting this whole email thing. I feel like there are some like B2C brands who really get how to entertain people.
So
Uh,
let's do it that way. Like, who are your top B2Cs, for email?
so somebody turned me on to this company called Reformation. They make dresses. And during COVID, right? Like no people aren't thinking about what dress you're going to wear in quarantine, right? Like looking your nicest. And so they were sending out emails that were like, hey, when you're ready to start strutting the streets again, here are some options. Like they did it with humor and acknowledging the current environment, right? Like the limitations of why somebody, or the objections of why somebody wouldn't be purchasing things right now. And it kept people warm, kept me interested. I wanted to read their emails. Do I have a need to look my best on the street right now? No. But if I'm ever in the market for dressing to the nines again, I'll be looking at them.
All right, cool. It's really, I'm just taking a look at their website. Like, I mean, it's funny. I think the name of the brand is Reformation because it's just, it makes me think of 1500.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the brand I was thinking.
Right.
The styles I was thinking.
Right.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. What are your favorite tools? Like, what do you like to use in your everyday?
So lately I have been into, so if you were on my team, you would know that I have a real problem with tech tools. I love to play with them. Uh, and in fact, like, I don't know if you know AppSumo. Do you know about AppSumo?
I've heard of AppSumo. I don't tell us a little bit about AppSumo.
So they launch startup tech tools and offer you like deep discounts on lifetime access. So essentially you're like funding a tech startup,
Okay.
micro funding them, but you get the tool. So I've bought, lifetime access to things for like $50 or $100.
Okay.
And their emails work really well because I had to unsubscribe from them because I kept buying stuff. Like, this is going to solve my problems. I'm going to love this. For $50, sure.
I'm in.
Yeah, exactly. You got me. So I've actually found some really good tools through them. One of them is Book Like a Boss.
Oh, that's so funny.
Why?
No, because I know them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a coworker of mine, and
Oh,
and he
that's
and another guy
hilarious.
started that company. So I'm so happy to, I'll send them the podcast. They'll love to hear that.
Yes, you should. Like, I use that tool. I got a lifetime access deal, and I think AppSumo still has like a yearly discount, an annual discounted price for them. But
All right.
they are one of my favorite appointment scheduling tools that I recommend to people who.
I built their email. I promise
really?
you. I made their template. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. That's hilarious. I
That's all I know about it.
Yeah, I mean, for what you get for that tool and the price you pay, it's fantastic. They have landing pages, you can sell products, you can sell packages if you're selling services of some kind, and then just your average, just need to schedule appointments. And what they do that Calendly doesn't do that I've recently discovered is you can approve appointments. So if somebody requests an appointment, they won't get added to your calendar until you approve them. I think I might have lost you. Uh-oh. I'll just keep talking because I see me in the screen. Do you see me? I don't know if it's me or you. Should I keep talking since we're live? Oh, I've got the show now. It's all me. I think we lost him. I'm just going to take over the show and say whatever it is I want to say because I got a lot of opinions that I could keep talking about. I'm going to tell the whole wide world what's up. Anyway, Book Like a Boss. It's great. Go check it out. Also, AppSumo, if you have a problem with buying tech tools, maybe don't check it out, but also check it out. Book Like a Boss is a really good one. What else have I gotten through them? Oh, there's another one called Brandox that will help you store and share your branding info, fonts, colors, all that kind of thing. And if you're an agency, you can create several pages or sections where you're storing all of that information. So then you have a central hub to share hex codes, brand colors, logos, all that kind of thing internally or with external stakeholders who need that information. So if you need to work with an agency, that one is amazing. Also, there's another tool called HelpWise, which helps you manage your email inboxes. So if you have like a customer support one, or you're busy and you need somebody to help you manage your inbox, you can add team members, multiple members to an email inbox, and you can type notes, you can assign emails to people, and talk about emails in the tool. They also have a help center that you can create, help center, help docs for your team and your customers. So that's pretty beautiful. And they've also got a chat widget for your website. So you can have all that in a central location. That is an awesome tool that I love. I've been using with my team, and I recommend it to anybody who needs help managing inboxes with multiple members. Also, there's another pop-up tool that I've been using. So, pop-ups are really effective for capturing emails on your website. I know people say they think pop-ups are annoying, but like anything, if you see things done really, really poorly, like you hit a site and within a second you get a pop-up and you're like, I just wanted to look at this article, or I just wanted to check out this thing. I don't need a pop-up in my face.
I'm back.
You're back. Well, I've just been talking.
Good for you. I lost internet. And I don't know what happened. It seemed like it's sort of pouring outside, and I was wondering if something happened to the local internet, but
oh well,
it came back.
I've been just talking to your audience about all the things.
You were keeping it alive, I was like, oh no. I didn't know, honestly. I thought maybe the whole thing was gone, I didn't know if you sit on while it
I mean, if there's anything I can do in quarantine, it's talk. I feel like I've never had more of a need to talk.
Yeah, well, you've been the best guest we've ever had.
I'm putting that on my LinkedIn bio. Best guest ever for inboxing.
Best guest ever, for sure. For sure. Trying to mess with my lights to keep the background from going like weird on me.
Yeah. I was just talking about pop-ups. What are your thoughts on pop-ups for email sign-up?
If they're done like right, I think they're fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they're super spammy,
mm-hmm.
But like if they realize they are a pop-up, if they're self-aware.
Right. If they're self-aware. Yeah, because that's one of the
we know we're being annoying, but
yes.
We think we're offering you some good value here, and you might be interested.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, because one of the tools I was going to recommend, again, it's an AppSumo deal. They have like a special price on an annual membership or whatever. It's called Pop-Up Smart, and it's like you can basically manage all your pop-ups from one dashboard, and you can schedule them. You can, it even has like AI where it will serve people the pop-up based on their behavior on your site. But yeah, I think I totally agree. It's one of those things that people say they hate because they've seen it done poorly so many times. But like you can trigger a pop-up so it's not annoying, right? So it's a helpful.
Right.
You can wait an extended period of time. You can trigger it on page scroll. So wait till
right. There's ways to mitigate the annoying.
Right, exactly. And it doesn't have to be like the full screen pop-up. You can have a bar at the bottom, a sticky bar, or like a little widget
like
side.
Hello bar, right? Like that kind of thing.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be annoying. It doesn't have to be intrusive. It can just be a friendly, hey, there's this really cool thing you might like. So anyway, so that's a tool I've been using recently that has made managing pop-ups very easy. And scheduling things like seasonal offers. One can swap out for the other, all that kind of fun stuff.
Okay. I have a thing. Let's talk about CTAs.
Ooh, let's talk about them. What do you want to talk about?
Fun CTAs. Like you've seen your best CTAs. Like how do you like to use CTAs? It's usually like a buy now, or you're trying to be a little more creative.
I mean, I've tested CTAs, and I mean, in marketing in general, right? Like being too creative can be sort of counterproductive.
Right.
Yeah, and like it has to be clear, right? So I mean, it just depends on the brand. If you have like a really winky kind of brand that likes to have fun, then yes, a fun CTA makes sense. But most of the time, some sort of verb, very simple verb, and making it really clear about what's going to happen once they click, I think is always the best bet. So like I'm all about creativity. And sometimes it can be really fun to play with the call to action, but especially For the sake of clarity, I think it's really important to be conscious of that with your CTA buttons.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. I remember seeing a content piece that was showing like top like examples of CTAs, and they're usually like the most expected CTA.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And especially for people who are getting a little bored of the same, shop now, buy now. And I'm talking mainly about marketers. You get kind of sick of doing the same thing over and over again, and you want to play with it. For sure, play with it, but test it, to make sure that you're on the right track. But yeah, and I hate saying like keep it simple, especially for people who really want to play. They're tired of doing stuff the same way. But like it's always fun to play, but always test it for sure to make sure it's doing what it's do.
Where do you like to have your fun? Like more like in subject line pre-headers, or like in the content of an email, or?
Yeah, I like to so I feel like people put too much emphasis on subject lines as the end all be all. But I get it because, those open rates, usually that's the most visible metric you have, and the most easily accessible one if you don't have really robust reporting. So like I've tested so many subject lines and rarely have I seen them really make an impact on having multiple or, testing one against the other. I haven't seen the needle move a lot. There are exceptions where I've seen, an email with one subject line got a lower open rate, but double the sales than that got a higher open rate. So I wouldn't say that anyway, sorry. I'm like sort of going into the weeds of subject lines. I could talk about that.
No, you're good. You're good. No, I mean, I think the point you're making is really that you don't want to, you can't like have the best subject line all the time.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
Right? You're not always offering the best value. It's not even worth it to make the best, like there's a time and place for the best subject line.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then you make your efforts, you make your A/B tests, you work it out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, the things I really like to play with in email are, automation, right? Like what are the best triggers to grab people when they're most interested? And then, what are those follow-up actions, right? So the timing, when do you play with timing in an automation? How long do you wait between emails in an automation? So those kind of things I like to test. I also I've been playing with a video player in email. Again, another AppSumo deal. Where it can take a 3-minute video and basically turn it into a GIF in the email.
But how heavy is that GIF? I always wondered about that. Like I've seen someone once sent me a video that was an email and it was like a 20 megabyte GIF.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's.
I've been testing it and it's not really doing much. But I think you need to be really conscientious about what kind of video you're putting in there too, right?
Right.
If it's one that's heavy on speech, people are then going to have to read the subtitles, and that might not be super great.
Right.
Anyway. But yeah, I like to play with content. I like to play with layout. Are there layouts that make the content much more digestible? So are you sectioning out each piece of your email so that it's clear it's a different theme, right? Or it just breaks it up better.
Right.
So those are the things I really like to play with. And of course, tech tools, how do you integrate things so that you have a better, more seamless data transfer process and customer experience. Yeah, those are the kind of things I like to play with. Because I guess
I saw recently. I just noticing more and more video tools for email, or like I noticed one yesterday even called Bonjoro.
Yes,
You've heard of them?
I've been playing with that.
it makes so much sense. I mean, I feel like it's such a fun way to engage, especially for businesses, like B2B. You want, and you could set up these automations of videos. Like, that could be like so cool.
Yeah, well, it is really, well, it makes sense because like I mean, especially in the pandemic world, the quarantine world, we rely on video so heavily, and it is like going to be taking over more and more of our content in the digital marketing world, and like every digital marketing channel favors video. And
Right. Every platform.
and so doing an email is tricky because you can't necessarily play a video in an email, except there are some tools that are coming out for that, that are very, very expensive. Rightfully so, right? They're innovative. But yeah, putting video in email is really important. It, like you said, it establishes personality and a relationship. It makes it human, makes it seem like it's not just an automaton putting together marketing campaigns.
Right.
But yeah, I've been playing with Bonjoro, and that's been really cool. Because it gives you a task, so you can set up a trigger. So like, let's say somebody signs up for your email list, or they're looking at a particular product or service on your website. You can trigger a task in Bonjoro to create that video. So then you can go and say, hey, person, first name, last name, do you have any questions about blah, 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 whatever it is there that triggered it, right? Or like, welcome to the email list. You can do all those fun things.
So do you set up the automations in Bonjoro, or or does it integrate like an API call? Like, you set up the automation in like MailChimp or whatever you're using?
You can use like Zapier to connect things to Bonjoro, to set up those triggers. But an ActiveCampaign has a native integration with Bonjoro.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so you can set up the automation, so you add a step in there to create a task.
All right. How about some unpaid endorsements? Like, who are your favorite, service providers? Email service providers.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've just been plugging all these businesses here today. So, for like professional services, ActiveCampaign, I always recommend, because it does have the CRM component, and it gives you the biggest bang for your buck, right? Like, it can give HubSpot a run for its money at a fraction of the cost. And although HubSpot does really, really incredible things, you really need a specialist to handle all that for you, right? Because otherwise, 10% of what it has available, and it gets expensive. Rightfully so, if you know how to use it, right? Then it's worth the money.
For sure.
So ActiveCampaign, I always recommend. They do have some really good e-commerce integrations with WooCommerce and Shopify as well.
What in their CRM? What can they integrate? Like, how much information can you pull in?
You can pull. So they're really. I feel like over the last 6 months, they've worked really hard to do deep integrations, native ones. So like, they have it with Shopify and WooCommerce, where it can pull in the order information, the actual order and order information into your CRM.
Yeah, that's so convenient. Like, if you ever had to work with clients that don't have either Shopify, WooCommerce, or I don't know what.
Yeah,
PrestaShop.
Exactly. So then you can like trigger automations based on what product somebody purchased, category, like do all those follow-up sequences based on that. So that's really powerful.
They have all the recipes, right?
Yes. Yep. And they also have a Calendly native integration as well. So you can set that up and trigger.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, trigger goals. You can do custom conversions. So you can even do like assign a monetary value for like a custom monetary value for like a discovery call, right? Or some kind of other monetized call or event, things like that. So yeah, they've done a really good job with that. But for e-commerce, like Klaviyo is also a really good option. Yeah, their analytics are incredible, and their predictive analytics.
Yeah, and they're also their they don't call them recipes, but whatever they call them, they're really good content. Like I don't know how they write content that almost works for every brand. Like it just out of the box.
Yeah, they must have some good content marketers on their team.
Exactly.
So yeah, those are the two I typically recommend. But every business is different, and sometimes they need something very specific or specialized based on the tools they're using or their goals.
Yeah, I think that's always I was thinking about writing a content piece, and actually I think I might be sending something soon about this. I have someone who does my my social for me. So I'll be writing with ESPs soon. But really, when it comes to ESPs, it really depends on what your business is about and what you need your ESP to be doing for you.
Well, yeah, and what tools you rely on and what needs to be integrated with your ESP. Because some of that's the thing a lot of people don't think about is like, what data do you need to go in and out of your ESP to segment and personalize and automate? And they choose an email service provider because they're like, oh, this is nice and flashy. But then you're like manually uploading Excel files, CSV files daily or weekly to make sure the data, and it's such a pain. And like time can be so much better used than doing that. So
for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much, for being my first guest and being a great guest with that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and this is actually our second run around, right? We did that coronavirus, in March, the panel discussion. That was a lot of fun.
You know what's hilarious? I have to tell you something. So I recently started, I hired an agency to book me on podcasts. And I was on one a Monday evening with Jules Dan.
That's so funny. Yeah, I know Jules.
It didn't occur to me until I get on the podcast with him, and I'm like, God, your name looks familiar. You look so familiar. Where do I know you? And I was like, we were on that panel.
That call together. Yeah. He was like whispering. It was like 2 a.m. He's like,
yes. So funny. But yeah, hilarious.
So funny.
It's a tiny marketing world.
It really is. It really is, and it's so fun. It's such a great group of people. So I hope I think I'll start either I'll find a co-host or I'll just start the podcast with the guest. But we're finding our way and just keep it fun and light. And and I hope there's a lot of great content out of this, and we'll probably micro content it up and you can use it too and reshare it.
Woohoo!
You said. All right. Congratulations being, what number are you out of the top 30 internet marketers, internet email marketers?
Oh, right. Influencers. Yeah, I think it was 20 or something like that.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Yeah.
I was so happy. I knew so many people in that list. I was
right? You're just so popular. You just so
that's it. No, but really, honestly, that's why I started this podcast, because I know all these people. I have a lot of access to a lot of great people, and and everyone loves being on podcasts. So
who doesn't
go
podcast?
So, thanks again. We're gonna wrap it up.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. Bye.
Bye. Have a good whatever time it is for you.
Good Wednesday.
Yes. All right. Take care. Bye.
Have a good one. Bye. All right. That wraps up our show for today. Thank you, everyone who joined. And if you really enjoyed this content, please subscribe through Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or wherever you're listening to your podcast, and tell your friends. And this has been the Inboxing Podcast, episode 1. Thank you for coming. I'm Hillberg.